I want to talk about one of the strangest story in the Chumash. And it's particularly strange considering that we're talking about Avraham, who is, I think, objectively the individual who has had the greatest influence on humanity, period. Founder of monotheism, Judaism, the Havdal, Elf Havdalas, Christianity, and Islam are all, in their own words, branches of Judaism. That's billions of people. But as Thomas Cahill so eloquently points out in his bestseller, The Gift of the Jews, if you haven't read the book, you got to read it. It's a one-night read. It's part of fascinating, from a completely secular perspective. He concludes, the last paragraph is wonderful. Every value that the West holds dear, that has shaped Western civilization, every virtue, including the whole notion of science and discovery, is all due to Avraham, this singular Jew who started it all. In a word, before Avraham, life was cyclical. You look at nature, that seems to be, the seasons, life, death, and there were many forces in nature that were competing and all have to be appeased to keep it all going smoothly. And Avraham introduced life or time as being linear. We're progressing towards a utopia, change, discovery. It's about evolution in the spiritual sense, not just about fitting in to the world, finding a place and surviving. That was life before Avraham. Nature, the jungle. But it's about change and revolution, linear. We're progressing towards utopia. This is a revolution that spawned science and a whole new way of thinking about everything. It's called The Gift of the Jews, this book by Thomas Cahill. It's a great read. So the question is, this great man Avraham, now, so I'm telling you the problematic, this is a story that's so strange. And the first story we get, after God appears to him and tells him, you're my man and my people, and forever, and the land is yours, and through you, all the nations of the world will be blessed. It all starts with this week's parsha. What's the first story? The next story, there's a famine. He goes down to Egypt, turns to his wife and says, do me a favor. You're this beautiful woman. They're going to want to take you. We're married. They're going to kill me to take you. So say, you're my sister. They won't kill me. They'll just take you without killing me. This is what it means. And he continues. And they will, because I brought this beautiful woman, they will give me gifts. They will treat me well. And I will be untouched. I'll be alive. No, it's mind-boggling. This is the first story of Avraham, putting his wife in this situation, and what's his uppermost concern is going to get money, he's going to get paid, and puts that before his life. You know this the joke, the old Jewish fellow, your money, your life. Let me think. Wait a second. One thing. Not so sure. So here Avraham says, puts his money first. This is the first story we're encountering. It's very, very, it's shocking. So there's many, many levels of explanation. I want to share with you first, I'm going to two extremes. First, something, just a very beautiful halachic. This is now just halachic discussion that we learn from this story, and then I'll explain the spiritual meaning of it and how beautiful it is, and maybe some more. First, the halachic thing. There is this phenomenon we find sometimes called a medrash pliya. Medrash means a comment of our sages, and pliya means like at a first glance, it's like completely puzzling. So there's a medrash pliya on this story. The medrash is like this: when Avraham turned to Sarah and said, as they're going down, tell me you're my sister, so they'll take you. From here we learn, there's someone sick on Shabbos. And the doctor said, really sick. I mean, so that they have to eat meat. So you shecht. No problem. You shecht for the sick person on Shabbos. That's it. You learn this from the story of Avraham and Sarah. What in heaven's name is the connection? You shecht. So here, answer. Beautiful answer. The question is this. Why was Avraham so convinced that they would kill him to take him? Maybe just take him without killing him. They're going to kill him. They're going to kill me and then take him. Because Avraham reasoned that the Egyptians were very intelligent. And they're also aware, everybody was aware of the 7 Noahide laws. It was out there. No one bothered with them too much, but it was out there. So he reasoned that the Egyptians would say like this, rather, what's better, a sin once or many times? So if they just take a married woman every time the king, whoever it is intimate, he's transgressing. It's a lot of sins. They're not going to want to do that. Do one sin, kill, finish, and now she's free. That was his reasoning. That was the logic behind they're going to kill me and before they take you, because this way you're not a married woman, because if they take you married, the sin continues, perpetuates. And so now, having said that, now we understand how our sages derive from here that you shecht an animal on Shabbos to feed a sick person. Why? Because the question is, why shecht? Just give them, get meat from the non-kosher butcher and finish. But halachas don't do that, rather shecht. Why? Because if you give the person non-kosher meat, every mouthful, we've got to have this dispensation. It's a sin, but it's lifted. You shecht once, that's it. And now, so when we learn that model, better one sin than a repeated sins, we learn that from Avraham. That he said they're going to kill me rather than just take you. Level 1. This is the Rebbe is offering this brilliant insight, but then the Rebbe asks, wait a second. The two cases are not the same. In Egypt, they were both capital offenses, in theory. Murder and adultery, so that they're all the same. Do this once, and therefore you will have one of adultery. But eating non-kosher and Shabbos, they're not equal. Shabbos is a capital offense, in theory. Eating non-kosher is a negative prohibition for which one gets lashes. It's not on the same level as Shabbos. So does the model of Avraham in Egypt say that we should shecht on Shabbos and not eat the non-kosher? The non-kosher is a much lesser prohibition. How do you arrive at the conclusion? Now comes a credible answer. It needs a bit of explanation. We'll give it in essence. Marriage. Before the Torah was given, and this still applies to non-Jews today, there's no concept of divorce or marriage in halacha for non-Jews. I should qualify that. There is marriage, but there isn't the concept of kiddushin, this ceremony, sacred ceremony that makes it, or a get that separates it. What's marriage in halacha for non-Jews? By consent. If a man and woman consent to live together, they're married and treated as such. If either one decides, I want out, it's over. There's no need for kiddushin, the marriage, the chuppah, and there's no need for a get. Why? Because it's not sacred. It's not a holy union. It's a man and a woman who live together, and it's beautiful. And hopefully a long, beautiful life. You don't want this, so it's over. But once the Torah was given, marriage becomes a whole different thing. It's a reflection of us and God. And it's not just a consensus of two people living together. It becomes sacred, so there's a sacred way to come together, and a sacred way to undo it. Therefore, all to say, this is an incredible insight, halachic insight. This is before the Torah was given. Avraham is governed by the same laws as everybody else. When they go down to Egypt and they take her by force, the marriage is over. If he gives up, I'm never going to see her again. It's the end of the marriage. She's no longer married. But it's what? It's unsavory. It was done by force. So killing then was a serious offense. If they take her by force and live with her, that's not such a serious offense. They're really divorced. As far as Allah is concerned for non-Jews. And yet Avraham was convinced they wouldn't want to do that. They don't want to repeat a lesser offense. Often, rather do a more serious one once. So now we have the model for Shabbos. It's better shecht, that's a serious thing, than repeat a lesser one than non-kosher food. So that's just a brilliant halachic explanation of otherwise a very strange medrash. From here we learn you shecht and you don't feed the non-kosher meat. All right. Now to get back to we started with this story. So first of all, the truth is, people bristle, especially women, when they read the story. Like, what's he doing? So first of all, it has to be noted as follows. The Zohar says, Avraham knew she would not be harmed. She was a tzedekah, and there was no question about it. And in fact, that's what happened. She wasn't. And you read the story, an angel accompanied her. It's not in this text, but Rashi brings it from our sages. The text does say that Parai's household was stricken with this a kind of plague. The plague was that intimacy was extremely painful. That was the plague. And she would say, this one. Everybody was suspect, bang. Parai says, take her away. Abraham knew that was happening. He knew his wife. He knew that she would be protected. But still doesn't answer why he's saying, and they're going to deal well with me, and I'm going to have wealth. The story should have been simply, I know you're going to be protected. God will protect you, and then you will be released, and we'll go on our merry way. Why does he invoke that they're going to deal well with me? Answer. God had just promised Avraham great wealth. So he is looking for natural ways that this is going to happen, to be partnered with God. That should be realized. Now, he also very well appreciated great wealth. What does he need great wealth? Avraham was a shepherd, a spiritual man, the founder of monotheism, wasn't interested in money per se. But he knew he needed that, because if he's going to influence the world, he needs to have the resources. That's why God's blessing him with wealth. And now, right after that, they're going down to Egypt, and here's an opportunity for it to happen naturally. So he then says, and they will give me great wealth. You will be the means by which God's promise will be fulfilled in me. For our mission to be charitable and hospitable and touch thousands, which they did. Now, I want everybody to know here, from here, I know it's from here or it could be elsewhere. Actually, I think here's the source. The Zohar says, Parnasa comes in the merit of the woman. So here's a motivation. It'll tie into the next discussion in a second. The motivation to be a good husband, to keep your wife happy. The real reason is because you want it to be happy. But the HR also needs okay, it's a big kickback. Happy wife, that's the channel for livelihood. Why? To understand why. Because livelihood is all about, the bread on the table, food. That's what the woman is. She's the nurturer of life. In the words of our sages, husband and wife, the team. He brings home the wheat. That's nice. But who turns the wheat into bread that actually nourishes? She does. So the end of the word panos actually means to nourish. The farness means to nourish. That's what it means. So she's the nourisher. She's the actual food on the table, feeding your children, the home. So she's the parnosa. So it's in her merit. It all ends up in her hands. So therefore, you want her to be happy with you and happy in the home, so that the vessel is very broad. And we learned that from the story of Avraham, partially at least, that he said, in your merit, we will be blessed with wealth. And now, a final insight and a beautiful message for all of us. Symbolically, Avraham living in Egypt, living in Israel, there's different times in our lives, friends. So living in Israel is when we feel the holiness and we're inspired. There are moments in our life where we're inspired vis-a-vis a relationship with God, and also our wife, family, we love her, we feel loving feelings, and we view her positively, and we're motivated. There are times. And then there are times when we descend to Egypt. It's like psychologically, emotionally, spiritually. The word Egypt, we all know, means a narrow place. Mitzrayim means narrow. not feeling it. All kinds of distractions. Egypt was a very immoral place. I said, not feeling it. And it's constricting. It's constricting. Life is constricting. That's how I feel right now. And likewise with Hashem. At times we're inspired and we're motivated, and then there are times where Yiddishkeit seems like a big burden. It's constricting on me, and it's a lot of it's tying me down. Counter this, counter that, rules, another rule, another rule. I don't feel the Holy Land. So here's the message here. Avraham's going down to Egypt. So that's symbolic of ups and downs of life. There's going to be spiritual Egypts. You're my sister. Now all of a sudden she becomes a sister. What does this mean? There are different levels of relationship with our wife. Our wife is more than just a wife. It's actually reflected in kol doidi doifik. Likewise with God, the voice of my beloved knocks on the heart of every Jew. Peacefully open up, and God refers to us, Achoisi, my sister, my Yossi, my friend, my dove, my loved one. There's all kinds of dimensions. So here's the thing. The wife dimension, that's the obvious component of our marriage. That means this is a stranger. We choose to get married. It could end also, God forbid. It could end. It's not a given. Now, because she's a stranger, that's where the passion really lies. The passion lies that here's a stranger and there's a distance. We're becoming the distance and the fire. So if you're motivated, that's wonderful. But if you're not motivated, she's a stranger. And if you ever forget that, look at her parents and her family. Invite them to your home. You remember how really different you are. What happens to the marriage then? You're in the Egypt state. You're not feeling passion. You don't feel like giving. How is the passion? How is fire created when the fuel is consumed? So you don't feel like surrendering. In the end, is fire, but you're just not motivated. Egypt, you got to remember, she's not just a stranger. She's also my sister, because at the core of it, we're two halves of one soul. And just like siblings, a sibling relationship should not be passionate. It shouldn't be. It's called the love of water. It's deep and still, and it's husband and wife. It's passionate because it could be distant. They come together. It could be. That's what creates the fire, the excitement, the electricity. Sibling relationship is calm, and it's not exciting. And shouldn't be. It's just a given. You always rely on your brother and sister. You rely on your parents. When you go down to Egypt, when I'm in that moment of feeling verkvetched and not inspired, and remember, my sister, we're connected on a very deep level. And so if you just remember that we're connected on it, then it'll sustain one in that moment of Egypt, and then they come out of Egypt with great wealth. So it's a very powerful message. Not feeling it, okay, not feeling it, not feeling the fire and the passion, but you're still connected. This is meant to be in two halves of one soul. And that's the profound spiritual message of the whole story here. That if we face our own personal Egypts, you look at your wife and you say, we're still connected, even though I'm not feeling it. If you hang on to it, then the sister, the sibling dimension, then comes out of Egypt, rich man, the riches and the experience. And so likewise with Hashem. We're inspired sometimes to serve, and sometimes we're not. You have to remember, God's my brother, my sister, my father. I'm still Jewish. We're still connected, whether I feel this or not. It's very deep and it can never go away. Hang on to those moments. The inspiration will come afterwards with great wealth. Have a wonderful day, everybody.